Hello, everyone. I'm thrilled that you can join us today for our first Creative Aging peer learning session. And I'm Kate Parkin from Arts Council, and I work on the Creative Aging Learning Programme and our Place-Based Programme. For the purposes of audio describing, I'm a white female, brown fringe, and a blue tank top. And today we are absolutely delighted to welcome you all for the first of hopefully many creative aging peer learning programme opportunities. The session is going to be recorded. We do have two fabulous BSL interpreters as well today. Please let us know in the chat because we're going to have some opportunity to talk later on in the session. So please let us know in the chat if you'd like and need support within the breakout sessions. We've also got captions options as well, so please feel free as well to use the captions at the bottom of your screen. And the speakers will be spotlit, including the BSL interpreters. Today we're going to be looking at engaging older people living in care in meaningful creative opportunities. The theme of today's session and the theme of the next 6 months has been driven by our steering group, which comprised different members and representatives from across the creative aging sector. But also we held a survey, a national survey, and from the kind of analysis worked out what was going to work, what people interested, the needs. And the biggest priority at the moment was looking at exploring kind of barriers to engagement across the different sectors. So we're going to be looking at care homes today. And then in December, we're looking at supported assisted living schemes. And then in February, next session, we'll be looking at living at home for older people. But throughout, we'll be having kind of hosting different opportunities for speakers, for project shares, and for you to talk and meet each other. So today I'm thrilled to be joined by 5 speakers, one of which will be our chair, Natalie Ravenscroft from NAPA, the National Association for Activity Provision. We're also being joined by Emma Palin, who's Heritage and Exhibition Coordinator, and resident Carol from Belong Villages, a care provider in the West Midlands and in the Northwest. And then after the break, so we have a break for 10 minutes, about 10 to 3. After the break, we'll be joined by Camille Ben Suzanne, Executive Director at Upswing in Stoke-on-Trent, and Kate Hodson, Creative Director at Magic Me in London and the South East. As I said, the session will be 2 hours. We'll have an opportunity to meet together after following the break and come back for feedback. We'll also have a few minutes at the end of the session for a survey, which will help inform us about not only to review the session, but look forward looking. So we'd love you to do that. And you can also book on future sessions through our place-based peer learning program website. And the session's been recorded, so you'll be able to review this afterwards or share it on to contacts after the session, which should be by next week. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce, just so you know, that's the break, that's the agenda. I'd like to introduce Natalie.
Thank you, Kate, and thank you for everyone being here. I'm just going to share my PowerPoint with you all so that we can really break down and have a look at what some of the barriers are when it comes to creative aging, as Kate mentioned, within care services, particularly care homes. So, for those of you that don't know who I am, my name is Natalie Ravenscroft. I am the Services Manager here at the National Activity Providers Association, often referred to as NAPA. Really want to say thank you for the invitation. And NAPA is a charity but we're also the UK's professional body for activity providers. So you might refer to them as activity coordinators or wellbeing or lifestyle leads, but also activity provision. And our whole purpose is to make sure that older people that are living in care services or accessing them have opportunities that bring meaningful moments, joy, and also supports their identity. So just before I move a little bit forward, just very briefly, a little bit about us. NAPA is a charity and a membership organisation, but we're also a learner provider, and we work really, really closely with our network of members, uh, people that have lived experiences, our stakeholders and our recognised suppliers, and as well as organisations such as this, which enable older adults to be able to live the life that they choose. And that also includes education, training, information, advice. We have lots of free resources. You don't have to be a member to access the free resources. So do head over to the NAPA website if you want to download any. But more importantly, we're about sharing best practice. And I think when we talk about barriers, opportunities such as this is a fantastic way for us to reduce them barriers. I always see a barrier as a gate. I always think it's something that we can walk through rather than it being a concrete wall, which is a definite no. And as an ex-activity provider, I don't understand that terminology, no. But we do also have initiatives such as the National Day of Arts in Care Homes, which we have just celebrated our 7th year. And we were so excited that over 1,000 services this year took the pledge. There was a lot more that took part, but there was over 1,000 that took part in this initiative. And this helps us to think about breaking down worries around creativity. But realistically, we're here to look at the barriers. So, what are the barriers then when it comes to opportunities of creativity within care services? At NAPA, we've spent many years listening, over 27 years listening to our members, to also people with lived experiences, our partners, and run many advisory groups to really try and understand what gets in the way when it comes to meaningful engagement. Now, some of the things that there's many, everyone's got individual barriers that they face, but the top kind of topics I'm just going to cover very lightly are some of them are logistical or operational. So, for example, staff will often tell us they want to run sessions, they want to run art sessions, but maybe there's a staff shortage on the day, or they can't be released from their essential care tasks. Or some might say that their budgets don't stretch to recuperating the art materials that they would need to be able to facilitate. The other barriers that we hear about in Napa are the residents. Perhaps someone is living with advanced dementia. We know there's many different types. Maybe the person tires quickly, or another person has hearing loss or vision loss, or struggles to follow along. And often, activity providers or staff are managing a lot when it comes to the group dynamic. So, how do we support a multiple room of people with different support needs and adaptations? The other barrier that we hear quite a lot of, and our care sector is absolutely wonderfully diverse. Around fifth of the adult social care workforce in England come from a wide range of cultural and ethnic backgrounds, and that's a real strength. That's absolutely, it brings rich experiences and ideas around creativity. But it can also mean that, there's lots of different cultural frames and challenges in terms of staff understanding, for example, why we would want to play a game of carpet bowls, or why we would really like the Nolan sisters, for example. Quite often in my own family experience, we have quite a lot of family members that are from Poland, for example, and they absolutely love the Eurovision. And for us, it's not something that's huge, but for them it is. So there's lots of different experiences when it comes to our diverse workforce, but also for the individuals we're supporting that are living within the care community that we support. I'm an English-born white female. And for a period of my career, I was working in Wales, and I didn't really understand how to support individuals with their Welsh heritage and their Estiniog, for example. So there's lots of barriers when it comes to understanding cultural relevance. And the other barrier that we do know of, especially with our Arts in Care Homes advisory group, is the artist's knowledge. There can be a gap between creative practice and care practice. Many talented artists who want to work with older people have never actually been inside a care environment before. And the first time, I know from experience, can be really overwhelming. The sound, the pace, the call bells, them routines. And without some preparation, it's really easy to be unsure about how to adapt, how to communicate comfortably, how to feel safe. So training seems to be a huge barrier that we're aware of when it comes to supporting artists, but similarly for the staff as well, not being familiar with the different type of art forms that are there. I've had experiences with artists in the past that are doing some very creative, expressive forms of art, and staff just do not understand. It's very unusual to them. It's not something they've seen before. So there becomes a natural barrier of, well, I'm not sure about that, so I'm just going to put my hands a little bit. That's my comfort zone. And maybe I'm not going to get engaged with that as much as I would like to, for example, photography. But also, as we talked about the staff confidence, they often can feel very isolated in terms of, well, I don't know what I'm doing. They have very limited expectations of themselves in many cases, and I'm talking as a collective. There's some amazing staff out there that are ex-artists or current artists that, feel bags of confidence, but the majority of the workforce that we're aware with do struggle and will often say, "Oh no, I might get that wrong," or "I'm not an artist. I can't draw," is one of the most famous sayings we hear. So, not having the right skills or the right opportunity to explore what that looks like can also be a potential barrier. We also know that location and travel can be a bit tricky. So not everyone lives in high populated areas. We do know that there is a huge lack of transport facilities for care services. Many local minibuses or taxi services will have school contracts and they prioritise them. But also buildings might not be always accessible. Some venues, particularly theatres or, for example, art galleries, independents, might be in really classical listed buildings. So there will be often limitations and barriers there as well. And then sustainability and continuity. We do know that there are some amazing initiatives that are funded out there, wonderful projects with lots of enthusiasm. But if that funding ends or a key member of staff moves on, then it can be hard to keep the momentum. So that's why planning for how to embed and sustain creativity really matters. The principles of good practice and enablers. The good news is we do know what helps, and it does start with co-creation. So listening to the artists, listening to the residents and families, and listening to the staff teams. Designing flexible approaches for cognitive stimulation, sensory engagement, and mobility needs. Making creativity part of everyday life and not just a one-off relevant event, and training upskilling staff so they feel confident. But building steady partnerships with cultural organisations and artists, and of course, monitoring and reflecting. I always say we're never going to get 10 out of 10 in life, and that's absolutely fine. But if we can identify where the barriers are and how we can work together as a collective and not as a silo, then we can absolutely achieve something magical together. And we know both from our own network that NAPA, that wider national research, that creative engagement transforms the lives of people, especially those in particular living with dementia. I'm not going to give you the classic percentage that everyone shares because it's an ever escalating number. But about 70% of the people in care homes are affected with some form of dementia support needs. And obviously, the Arts Council, ourselves, universities are continuously studying and researching how best we can support the sector to reduce those barriers and to have further impact that we know and the great work that is happening out there. So I wanted to just pop this quick slide in around what regulators want to see and how we think that links back to why it's important to remember that sometimes regulators can feel like a barrier when actually it's not. They really want to help you embrace creativity, and we're seeing that now. Particularly, I'm talking just mainly about CQC here. We know we have CIW, CIS, but for example, the CQC Single Assessment Framework wants clear evidence that activities are person-centered, they are individually led, and that's a positive. But if teams don't know how to evidence impact, then we're not capturing them moments. Good governance, risk assessments are essential. We don't want to be risk averse, but we do want to be safe and we want to make sure that we can maintain a level of independence. And if spaces need to meet them standards safely, they need to be accessible. Staff may feel often unsure about inviting artists in or using new materials. And with that in line, we have the NAPA Standard of Practice toolkit. So this is one way that we've identified to enable or reduce the amount of barriers that people are discovering around creative approaches for people living in care homes. I'm not going to go into too much detail here, but this is free to download. There's also some quality indicators on there. And this was in a collective working group from all different types of individuals living, accessing and working within the care sector to really embed what good practice looks like. And I just touched on the barrier of clearly impacting the work without good evidence. Creativity can look like it's just keeping people busy rather than demonstrating actually it's had a real social impact on quality of life, on community engagement. And that means less recognition. So again, the solution for us at NAPA is to equip staff and our artists with the opportunity to train and understand how to really measure impact well. And we're thinking of things like that through, case studies, taking pictures, writing down comments, feedback, surveys, all them things that really define, hey, this is what we're doing, this is amazing, and reducing them barriers around funding or options to continue the projects that you're currently delivering or wish to deliver. I wanted to kind of come towards the end of this introduction bit around the barriers that we face with something that I learned from America. So, myself and Hillary Woodhead is NAPA's CEO. We recently travelled to the United States, and I'm going to show you some quick slide photos in a moment. But we went to visit our colleagues at the National Association of Activity Professionals, NAP, and other creative agent networks. And it was absolutely inspiring to see how seriously creativity is taken within the States. Many communities have dedicated craft areas, art studios, music rooms, and even small theatres, and regularly employ music and art therapists alongside the activity director, so the person that oversees the multiple disciplinary services there. And we visited a lot. Here's a couple of photographs for you. Um, but it did leave me with the question. So why is creativity so deeply embedded? I mean, look at the room. They've got looms. They had glass blowing. This lovely lady in the centre here, she's a famous flower artist who designs the flower arrangement in line with the artwork, and it sits in the foyer. And it just really got me thinking, what is the difference? And the main difference is the fact that it's regulated. We're not at the point, unfortunately for us in the UK yet. We will get there, believe me, we are championing that way. And it's with your voices that we will enable that one day. But it is classed as a profession in terms of that it should be within a service, and it is regulated. But as I mentioned before, we are definitely making waves with CQC with a single assessment framework. So breaking down the barriers as I come to the end of this slide, this is about partnership. It's a two-way street. Care teams bring in deep knowledge of their residents, their life stories, their history, and partners, art partners, culture partners bring in fresh ideas, creative skills, and new ways to connect. In the same ways with families and residents, they aren't just participants. This really is about the voice and shaping and guiding what we can do and how we can inspire better practice, how we can build the confidence. As I mentioned, to me, a barrier is just a gate. So I wanted to leave you with a couple of little next steps or calls to actions for those of you that are listening on the call and thinking, this is great, but where do I start? Well, we're going to hear from some great speakers shortly, and you're going to have a chance to have a discussion around that. But start small, that saying Rome wasn't built in a day is absolutely true. There is no point in setting your expectations way beyond the realities of what it is that you can support, your location, the people around you, and the funds that you have to be able to start providing more opportunities. Reach out to local partners, reach out to associations. There is a great art directory over on the website for you that has a whole, I think it's like 300 and something art organisations listed in there from the bearing, which is amazing. And make sure that where possible, you attend free events like this for your CPD. That's a really great start. But if you're interested in music, we've just launched the music standards. And again, this is a great initiative to think about music is art. Of course it is. And this was created with artists, people with lived experiences. And this will also give you some guidance. It's our year of musical expression at Napa, and the one language that everyone can definitely speak in this world or understand is music. So if you have any questions for me later, please pop them in the chat. But I just want to say thank you for now. And I'm going to stop sharing and invite Emma Palin and Carol to join us. Welcome.
Thank you, Natalie. It's nice to be here.
It's lovely to see you. So welcome, Carol. Hello.
Thank you. Thank you. So my name's Emma Palin. I'm the Experience Day and Heritage Coordinator here at Belong in Newcastle-under-Lyme.
And I'm Carol Pace, and I'm a tenant for 6 years and anxious to join in when I
can. So hopefully we're going to successfully share the screen, and I've got a few slides to show you. Okay. Can you see that?
Yeah, just take it off that. Can you see your presenter view, Em? Yeah? Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Off you go. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, so we want to talk a little bit about integrating the arts into the care setting and discuss some of the successful projects that we've had over the last few years. So at Belong, we're big believers in the importance of art and creativity, and we've seen firsthand across all of our villages the impact that has on individuals' well-being and their overall quality of life, really. Bit about myself. So I'm the Heritage and Experience Day Coordinator. There's one of us in each of our villages across the Northwest and the West Midlands. Newcastle's a little bit unique. We're fortunate enough to get funding from the National Lottery to develop a Grade 2 listed building that's attached to our care side of the village. We developed these spaces into a reminiscence lounge. We have a pub on site. We also have a creative studio. In the creative studio, we've got an adapted potter's wheel. So regardless of your dexterity, or you could be in a wheelchair, you can still access the wheel. You can still be creative. You can still throw a pot. Being in Newcastle-under-Lyme, a lot of the people that live here used to work in the pot banks, used to decorate ceramics. So it's quite a passion for the people that live here. So they're very creative from the start, but it's nice to continue that tradition. We've won a couple of creative awards and been nominated. So in 2022, we won Napa's Year of Creativity Award. And then this year we were finalists in the Creative Arts Third Sector Care Award, which was fantastic. A bit about Belong's ethos, really. We focus a lot on supporting people to live as independently as possible. The Belong villages are vibrant communities with lots of people coming and going throughout the day. Some of our main areas, such as the bistro, are also open to the public. So there's always opportunity to meet new people and make new friends. We have a multitude of services in the village, so it's a home for life. So we have our households, which are 24-hour care support. We have independent living apartments, which Carol lives in. We also have a domiciliary team called Belong at Home and a daycare service called the Experience Days. So it's a home for life, and we look to support people throughout their journey all the way up to end of life. We promote choice and independence and promoting people to live an active lifestyle. We have a gym on site with a dedicated exercise specialist that works on one-to-one sessions with customers and residents, as well as doing group chair exercise sessions. And giving a peace of mind, not just to the people that live here, but for the families that might have a loved one residing with us. So why the arts? We've seen a huge range of benefits through working with different artists. And these are some of the words that residents and customers have used to describe how they feel when they're taking part in these sessions. It's a really good outlet for customers that may be struggling with verbal communication, if that is declining. Another way to express themselves. A lot of residents, I think you as well, Carol, can be quite surprised about what you can achieve. When you give something a go and you step outside of your comfort zone and try a different technique or medium. So some of these pictures are some of what we would call our magical moments of residents participating in different creative arts. So we've got some ceramics, some music, some singing, some work with instruments. A lot of these photographs were taken with our project with a group called the Blue Coats, which are Liverpool's Contemporary Art Museum group. They wanted to establish a partnership with us to study and look at the impact of working with the arts with people living with different types of dementia over a long period of time. So we've created a little bit of a timeline of our journey with the Blue Coats and how that started and where it led us to. Okay, so when we were approached by the Blue Coats in 2018, we did a joint submission for funding for the project, which was successful. And the idea is that we would trial how that works in some of our existing villages, ready for when our villages in Chester and Birkdale were due to open, and they would have artists from the get-go. So that would be from day one, artists working daily with our customers. So we trialed that at Crewe, at our Belong Village in Crewe. So that was over a 6-month period of a 6-week cycle of 5 different artists. So they were ranging from ceramicists to storytellers, musicians, a real eclectic group of individuals. That went really well. And at the end of that period, we did an exhibition in our village to kind of showcase the work that they had created. So it was great to invite members of the community in, as well as relatives, families, friends, also colleagues that participated to kind of showcase our work and what had been achieved. But then, as everybody will know, COVID was a big thing during 2020. So that restricted artists coming into the village. We couldn't have visits. Everything kind of went into lockdown. So we had to rethink how we were going to move the project forward and how we could still get arts out to people. So we decided to go online. Our Belong at Home domiciliary team supported people in the community with art sessions via a video link with our nominated artists, which was really successful.
It was successful.
Yeah.
I never thought it would be. I thought it's not going to work. It did.
Yeah.
So with loads of encouragement and help from staff, it's surprising what you can achieve.
Yeah.
It shocked me. Because I was not a believer, really, because I thought I can't do it. I can't do it, but I'll have a go.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I did.
So following on from that, that was really successful. We were coming out of restrictions in 2021, and we could have groups of customers, residents, tenants in our venues, in our larger rooms. Although we still couldn't have artists in the building, we decided that we were going to do a video link for our tenants to participate across all of our villages. So Carol was one of those participants. So this is Carol attending one of our art classes, who quite enjoys painting now.
And I would not have thought of even joining in there. But because I had success with the pottery making, well, I'll give it a try. And my family were, "You are not doing art, are you?" Knowing that I've always said I can't. It's amazing what you can do with help. You do need the help, of course. So we get help, and she comes round, puts a few dashes on, makes it all looking better, and it gives you a surprise.
What would you say is your proudest achievement of the things that you've made or accomplished?
Probably my lily leaf and frog that I made in pottery. But even the paintings, I'm surprised, just surprised. Very pleased as well.
Have you seen any or felt any benefits from joining in with some of these creative sessions?
Yes, because it just changes your mindset. You think you can't do it with help. You can. You've achieved all sorts of things you didn't think you could do. And of course, it gets you talking to people. If you don't come to belong to stay in your apartment, you join in with things. So we laugh and we talk to each other. And it's good all round. It's friendship.
Do you have any advice for any other care settings or groups that are thinking of doing the same kind of thing?
I'd say go ahead if you can. And I would say to tenants, give it a whirl. It's worth a try. Sure, you'll get enjoyment out of it. Like we do.
Yeah?
Yes.
Cool. Thank you, Carol. That was great. Okay, so moving back to the timeline now, and we're in 2022. So we were looking at opening Chester as our next village. We'd come out of restrictions, building had nearly been completed, and the artists were ready to start working with a new group of residents. So prior to Chester Village opening, we decided that we were going to run some sessions from the local Grosvenor Museum to try and get interest from members of the local community. Could be Scouts groups, could be Brownie groups, and trying to get as many people involved as possible prior to starting the project in Chester. Chester has an integrated children's nursery, so there's an added intergenerational benefit to the sessions that the artists were doing at Chester. Our residents and children were able to work together to create sculptures, paintings, and music sessions, which was really successful. again, working over the 6-week cycle. We got to create a lot of different unique things, and they were put on display and shared in the Grove Museum, and also an exhibition that was up in our villages for the children's family and our residents' family to come along and have a look. Very proud moment for a lot of parents whose children attend, and relatives of some of our residents. Following on from that, it's how we embedded what we learned from that journey with the Bluecoats, and what the benefits were, how we could embed that into a long-term strategy. The last picture in the corner is an example of some of our most recent work on a project with a group called The Grain, who are an arts non-for-profit charitable group in Newcastle that supported us with a photography project, recreating images with light exposure of some old photographs, plants from the garden. So we have that as a long-standing exhibition now within our village. One of the main things that we learned from working with the Bluecoats is it broadened our understanding about what the arts are. We think that it's quite traditional with ceramics, painting and drawing, but actually the arts can display itself in lots of different ways. So we had dance, we had music, we had tongue twisters, we had orchestras that were made from everyday objects, looks like pots and pans, and as you can see, the lady in the photograph with a tin made a very good drum. So it kind of broadened our horizons of where we could take arts and the different types of techniques that we could explore. The programme's impact, so we saw lots of different positive impacts of what worked well, and what we wanted to continue to try and achieve. So 80% of people said they were less likely to feel lonely when they participated in the We Belong project. Would you agree, Carol?
Definitely agree with that, yes. That friendship.
Yeah, it's particularly during a time where relatives were restricted in visiting, we couldn't have entertainment or people in to work with. I think it was really important that we explored the virtual side of that, and that still had a lasting impact that we continued to use afterwards. 65% of people felt a strong sense of belonging, that more people would be there, and early results showed how participants enhanced cognitive capacity and sense of community. So the last few are about the effects that the arts have on people that are suffering with fear, may live with anxiety around trying new things, limited cognitive abilities when it comes to dexterity, using a paintbrush, and that sometimes it was just more about the textures of using things like ceramics. Do you agree? Some of our standout case studies that I'd like to share some examples with. Mr. J never really liked attending activities. He didn't like your more traditional activities, but really embraced sculpture, and would spend hours creating, which our colleagues and his family were really surprised that he engaged in this as a medium, as he wouldn't enjoy anything else, and this is something he still enjoys to this day after the project's finished. Mrs. B was never really interested in art, didn't like any of the creative sessions that were put on, but found that the artist she was working with was a Manchester City supporter, and so was she. So they found common ground and common interest in the fact that they could have conversation for hours about football, who their favourite players were in recent games. While having those conversations, she was completely immersed in the art that she was creating, and spent hours making ceramic models.
Yes, that's where company is so important, isn't it?
Yeah.
They're getting company, they're getting friendship, they've been included.
Yeah. And lastly, I'd like to talk about Mrs. J. So Mrs. J rarely left her room, didn't like really engaging in activities, but came along to some of the ceramic sessions. And although she wasn't really bothered by creating any of the sculptures, what she really enjoyed was creating characters to use in role play and storytelling. So it doesn't always have to follow the theme of the of what the plan is for the day. She was perfectly happy to create these characters, tell us a story, and role play with them, and they became quite precious to her. So some of the critical success factors were working with the nationally acclaimed artist was really important. So there's a sense of pride among our residents and tenants, I think, with working with internationally acclaimed artists. It almost feels a little bit more significant,
Yes,
I would
definitely.
say. And the artists were really good at getting to know our residents and getting to know them personally as well as their families. And would you agree?
I would agree, yes, because she got me dotted as not liking it, can't do it. She said, "Oh, how you've changed."
So they really got to know our residents on a one-to-one basis, and they were flexible. So we all know that it can be unpredictable in care, and not everything goes to plan. As Natalie said before, there could be staff shortages, there could be an incident that's happened, and our artists were really flexible in adapting to the unforeseen. So they would happily do a session on a one-to-one basis in a resident's room if that was going to suit the resident more, or to an apartment for one of our apartment tenants, as well as running the group sessions. They were really flexible and really person-centered in their approach. Celebrating residents' creations. So all of our villages had exhibitions, and a lot of those are now become more permanent fixtures to display future projects that we've done. We also had involvement from Liverpool John Moore University for the evaluation and long-term impact and effects that had on our residents, particularly those that were living with dementia. And that also got us thinking about long-term, how we embed the arts into day-to-day living, into our staff training, from new starters coming through the door from the very first day. Some of the long-term legacies from doing these sessions, we had internally and externally. We had some coverage here from The Guardian, and Blue Coats also created a small magazine called Golden Moments that showed a lot of the work that they've done across the organisation over the years that we worked with them. This helped us embed more creative art sessions into our daily programme for all of our customers. And we could share this across the wider sector. Going back to Newcastle, I've got some examples of some of the projects that followed after that. So this is an exhibition that we did with the British Ceramics Biennial, or the BCB as it's known more locally. So this is a yearly festival where we celebrate the pottery's local heritage. So again, via a Zoom link, which we found was the best way to get as many people involved as possible in these sessions in different locations. We used porcelain to create small plates with memories from childhood, which was displayed in a local museum called Spode. So again, members of the public and families got to see work displayed with some nationally acclaimed ceramic artists, which was really good. We've also got this project, which was self-portraits. So this was based off reflections, which I think was last year's subject matter for NAPA's Arts in Care Homes Day. So these are all self-portraits that our residents created, and that's in another one of our pop-up exhibitions that we've got around our village. More recently, particularly over the last few years, we've got residents involved with the designing of our organisation's colleagues' awards trophy, which we call the Champion Awards. So this started out quite traditional trophy, and now we run a competition with a theme every year, and a winner is selected from all of the entries from our residents, and that trophy design is then recreated in ceramics and handed out at the awards night to all of our winners. So in the picture is Alma with our general manager, Josephine Mollison. So the theme for last year was local heritage, and Alma wanted to create a book that displayed images of heritage from all of our different sites. So obviously the kilns in the picture is for Staffordshire. We've got a train in the left-hand corner for our village in Crewe, which is the railway town. And then the star is the Star of David for our village at Morris Fireman, which is Jewish village. So I'm going to, hopefully, with sound, play you a little video that is the moment that Alma was shown the trophy completed for the first time. And this video was shown on our awards night to all of our nominees. So she says a lovely message to everybody that was nominated. Please let me know if you can hear it.
No, I can't hear it. When you shared, Emma, did you press the enable sound button?
Possibly not.
Oh, it's okay. Do you want to have a go? Because I'm sure everyone would really like to hear it. So if you just stop sharing, leave it where it is, just stop sharing. And then as you go to reshare, before you share it, it should come up enable sound in your right hand corner. So when all your windows open, it'll say to the right hand side, share sound.
Sorry, Nat, could you just say that again?
Yeah, of course. So when you open the share button and all the little windows open for you to share, on the right hand side, it will say click that, and always do that, and then it'll always work your sound. You're welcome.
Cheers, thank you.
Welcome.
Okay.
We press play.
Stop.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
I do.
Gorgeous. As ever. Hello, Alma.
Hello,
You
darling.
okay, love?
I'm fine. How are you?
Good, thank you. Lovely to see
Lovely
you.
to see you too.
Do you remember when you did your submission for the Belong Champion Awards?
I do, yeah, vaguely. Yeah,
Remember
but I do remember.
Do you remember when you wrote that book?
Yeah. I think so, vaguely, yeah.
Would you like to see it and
Yeah,
display as
I
a
would.
trophy?
Yeah. Who did that?
You.
Really?
Yeah.
I think that's pretty good.
Beautiful, isn't it?
Because I thought it would show people the kilns.
I'm going to do it for the kilns.
The kilns, because they're really going out of date now, and pretty soon there won't be any left. And so it's nice to show what's left in the book. And life is an open book, my dear. I'd like to tell you how good the staff are, and how they should deserve an award, because they are that good. Yes, nothing's too much trouble for them. Yeah, and they're marvellous with me and the other residents. But in particular, I've got to talk about me.
Yeah.
And it's me. They're very, very good too. And look at that star there in front of the kiln. Reminds me of the Star of David. It's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much for saving it and showing it me.
You're very welcome,
Gorgeous, isn't it, darling? Have
It
you
is
seen
gorgeous, Alma, yeah.
I would just like to say I'd love to wish all the nominees good luck, because I think they all deserve something, because they've all done a splendid job and they're marvellous.
That was a beautiful video. Thank you so much, Emma and Carol.
And that's it from us. Obviously, if anybody's got any questions, you can put it in the box afterwards. But thank you for your time. Thank you for listening to us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And please, please, if you do have any questions, do pop them in the chat. I know we keep asking that, but it is important. You are here, so please ask away. And thank you as well to your funders who supported the Where the Arts Belong project. We've had privilege of Napa visiting the Belong villages and seeing the incredible work and the work that the artists have enabled the staff to continue after they have finished. So absolutely amazing to see all the incredible stuff that is happening there. I do encourage you to go and take a look. And as Carol, I'm not going to ask you to do a tongue twister. We had Alan Dunn join the Arts in Care Homes Day online, but his book is absolutely fantastic. But yeah, I do know how challenging his tongue twisters can be. Okay, so we're going to go and have a little break now for 10 minutes. What I will say is please do not leave the space, okay? You can stay here, just turn your cameras off if they're on and keep your mics on mute. We're going to take 10 minutes. I will be very prompt at that. So I will see you in exactly, it's 2:53. I will see you in exactly 10 minutes. Okay? See you shortly. Hello, this is your 1 minute warning before we're about to start with our next guest speaker. So 1 minute warning. Thank you. Hey, welcome back. The time is 15:03. That was exactly 10 minutes. I hope you all found something very creative to do as you stepped away from your computer screens. After all, we are talking about creativity. I would like to welcome our next guest speaker. Just before I do, we did have a question in the chat. So, Emma, I will leave that with you to answer. If you feel it's a longer answer than replying in the chat, then we can try and squeeze some airtime in at the end for you to reply. But again, as mentioned, if you do have any questions, pop them in the chat. And if we do not manage to get them all today, we will contact you if you've provided your contact details. Okay, so Kate, welcome. I'm going to hand over to you.
Thank you so much. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Okay. How's that looking for everyone? Is that good?
Perfect.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for having me today to be part of this discussion. I'm Kate. I'm Creative Director and co-CEO of Magic Me. So I'm going to start with having a bit of a general, like, who are Magic Me, and then talk about a few of our projects with care homes. And then I'm going to hone very much into our artist residences in care homes project and some findings from an evaluation study that we did for that. So first of all, who are Magic Me? It was founded 36 years ago by Susan Langford, who is retiring in a couple of weeks' time. And I couldn't do this presentation without spending a moment to pay tribute to Susan for her tireless work in this field of arts and care homes, and for being such an advocate for this work and setting such high expectations. So yeah, a big shout out to Susan for all of the work that she has done in paving the way. So we are an intergenerational arts organisation bringing together older and younger people, often unlikely partners, to come together to create and connect. So alongside this, we've built a reputation for challenging the preconceptions of what arts in care homes looks like, and the expertise in how to work, negotiate that kind of arts and care homes partnership. Our vision as an organisation is a world without ageism, where everyone can enjoy their unique creativity and potential. We work across art form, and we have a really broad spectrum of what the arts and creativity is. We work with associate artists who have a real range of art form and multidisciplinary art form knowledge. Our care home work is responsive and in collaboration with care home staff and residents, so everything is co-created and responsive. A little bit of a deeper dive into a couple of different strands of our work. So Magic Me started, when it first started up, was about connecting primary schools with care homes. So, and that is something that we still do today. Often that can take the form of a term-long project where the primary school children come to the care home around a shared theme. and that it builds local connections, they create artwork together, and it's really collaborative. And the way in which it works is that both the older and younger people have input into an agency into the work. So it isn't about kind of older people giving advice and wisdom and younger people kind of helping the older residents. It's about them really coming together as equals within that partnership. Some other strands of our work have been connecting younger adults and care home residents. So here is an example of a care home festival that we did, which brought together younger adults who lived close by to a care home. And they came together over a number of weekends, and then they turned the care home into a festival exhibition space for the weekend. So these are some giant posters that then went up onto the front of the care home. Another thing that we did for over 10 years was cocktails in care homes. So an example of being really responsive to feedback. A lot of residents were telling us, it's really lovely when you bring the children, but we'd really love something in the evening. Is there anything you can do? So we created cocktail parties, and by the end of that project, we were across London in 18 care homes, throwing 18 parties a month, bringing together older and younger people in cocktail parties. And then another element of our programme, which has really grown since the pandemic, where we couldn't go into care homes, was this collaboration between care home staff and artists. And this is an example of our Spark project, which is a training and support programme for care home staff to work with artists to develop creative approaches which can be used in everyday care within the care home, using materials that you can find within a care home, so not having to get specialist materials. They're in the moment, non-verbal and portable, so they can work with people in their rooms or in the communal area. And if you would like to know more about the Spark programme, you can download the Book of Ideas, which is a really lovely resource of ideas of creative, in the moment, sensory activities that you can do in your care home. There's a QR code on the screen. So I just wanted to highlight this Magic Me principle. We have a set of principles that guide our work. This one feels really relevant for today's discussion. Everyone has a past, a present, a future, and an imagination. So the reason I wanted to highlight this was that it really feels important that whether you're 8 years old or 88 years old, that our practice assumes that everyone, no matter your age, whether you're living with or without a dementia, has something unique to offer. And there's the potential to reveal hidden talents that you don't, just because you're a certain age, you're not always going to want to look back or forward. And everyone can be creative and have an imagination. So now I'm going to hone into our artist residencies in care homes project. With the support of Paul Hamlin Foundation, from 2015 to 2023, we ran 2 iterations of this. We worked with 7 leading arts organisations and 1 artist. And here on the screen, you can see the 7 organisations that we worked with: Gecko, New Adventures, Curious Directive, Upswing, who are here today, Fevered Sleep, Punch Drunk, Enrichment, and Ducky. For many, developing artistic or participatory work in care homes was new, and Magic Me, through this programme, mentored the artists and staff of these organisations. And together, these organisations worked with care home residents and staff as co-creators and collaborators to make everything from dance films, circus performances, parties, 3D printing, exhibitions, sound installations, to immersive theatre experiences. And here is a QR code to the Dare to Imagine report. So this was from the second iteration of that Artists' Residencies in Care Homes programme. And it really has an overview of the programme, but some key findings, of which today I'm going to pick up on 3 of those key findings, which are really looking about how arts organisations or artists and care homes can collaborate. So I'm going to talk about setting up for success, artists and care homes collaboration, and how to transfer creative practice into a care home context. So first of all, setting up for success. This is really key. And I think asking at the very beginning, if you're an arts organisation or an artist, what are the understandings and expectations that we have? And what are the understandings and expectations that the care home staff have and the residents have? Because sometimes these understandings and expectations can be quite different, even from the care provider at head office to the care home manager to the care staff to the residents. So setting time in to listen and not to make assumptions is really important part of really setting up well. And find ways to explain, if you're an artist or arts organisation, how to explain your practice or your art form in ways that feel really clear and can, without assumptions being made. So something that we often find in initial conversations is that a care home manager will might hear the arts and maybe think about entertainers coming in. And that perhaps your arts practice is quite different to that. So just kind of talking that through. A top tip, I would say, is making time for an introductory session at the care home. This can be hard, getting all the key people in the room at the same time. But with scheduling and perseverance, this can happen, and I would say is really important. So the care home manager, the activities or lifestyle coordinator, them being there and sharing key information about the home, introducing you to people. The artist talking about how they work, and then time to go and have a tour, to meet and greet people. It can be hard with busy schedules, but I think it's worth the investment, as well as making time to hang out and get to know people, understand the ebb and flow of the day. The really practical but important things: what time is lunch, who comes to visit, which rooms are used for what, who comes down to the communal areas, who stays in their rooms. All care homes are different. Don't make assumptions. That's a bit of a mantra for this section. So does the home that you're working with challenge and embrace taking risks or not? How will this impact the pace that you go at and how long you might work together? What boundaries do you need to work within? And how might you gain trust? And then another practical thing for setting up for success would be agreeing on communication. Who are you going to talk to about what? How do you stay in touch between visits and within visits? Many care home staff do not have a work email. If they do, it might be accessed through the computer that's on the main desk. Many can't take their phones out and about when they're working. So how will you navigate that? How much collaboration is needed between the artists and the care home staff? An example on a project that we had, which needed a lot of collaboration between an artist and a member of care staff during the pandemic, was we sent a phone, which was a project phone, to the home. And so they could WhatsApp and call each other and talk without using a personal device. So the second area, artist and care home collaboration. So in collaborating with care homes, a curious problem-solving attitude is really helpful. Everyone brings their own experiences and expertise. It's about finding out who your key collaborators are and valuing their knowledge and skills and experience. So rather than we're going to come in and show you how we do it, it's more like, can you teach us how care homes work and what happens over here? Who is this person? What do they like? What do you like? So creating time and space for artists and care home staff to come together is really important. And that might be check-ins before a session starts, check-outs at the end. And in very busy, unpredictable places like care homes, that can be quite hard to put as a priority, but again, is really important in building that collaboration. It can be challenging to work collaboratively. So some care home staff, their perceptions of their role as providing care rather than engaging the arts can be compounded by the time constraints of their workload and staff shortages. But again, the care home manager can be really key in helping people and supporting people to prioritise the collaboration that is forming. Lifestyle and activity coordinators are absolutely crucial, but it's important that they're not seen as like this is their sole responsibility to be the linchpin between you and the residents. So again, it's that collaboration across different members of the team. And seeing care home staff and residents as creative is obviously really important as well. And sometimes there might be a lack of confidence in their own capabilities as creatives, and there may be being initially sceptical about whether residents would engage or benefit in the creative arts. But artists can really encourage and amplify the creativity that's already there. And finally, creative practice. So transferring creative practice into a care home context. So as mentioned, setting up is really important and understanding the environment and like the practicalities of that. And considering all the spaces that can be used. So from the communal living areas and social areas to bedrooms, what's on and off the table in terms of where you can use. And creative problem solving and sensitivity is really key. For example, when working one-to-one in a room or working in a living room where the TV is on and it's really important for a certain resident to watch a certain programme at a time of day, for example. So one of the challenges that came up with artist residencies was that some of the care staff and management reflected that they hadn't quite been prepared for how involved the artist would be in the home. And sometimes at the very beginning, it felt maybe a bit intrusive or disruptive. But these views actually mostly tempered once they were able to see the value of the creative practice and once that relationship had been built. And sometimes activities could be seen in a certain way within the home, happening at certain times and in a certain room. And so disrupting that took time, that creativity could happen in different spaces in different ways. And finally, artist preparation is really key here. So many artists were apprehensive about working with those living with a dementia. Magic Me provided training and support in this area and ongoing support and mentoring in this area. And I think this is a really important part of the puzzle, that finding the time to do that training with the artists and the staff, the arts organisation staff, and if possible to find time to kind of keep having that mentoring and support around that. And ideally some supervision or wellbeing support for artists, given the potential emotional experiences that they may encounter in a care home, or at least ensuring that there is that check-in and check-out for them. And finally, even with that kind of emotional support that may be needed and supervision, a lot of artists said how much the emotional investment in the project had really changed them as artists and people, and many were just absolutely transformed by working in care homes and just wanted to do more and more of it. So that's my whistle-stop tour today. If you would like to know any more about Magic Me or to follow us, here are our social media handles, Magic Me Arts. If you want to talk to me about any support that Magic Me can give you, mentoring, support, training in working with care homes, my email address is there. Yeah, so thank you very much. And any questions, I'm really happy to answer in the chat.
Thank you so much, Kate. And again, going back to them barriers at the start of today's conversation was definitely highlighted from yourself there in terms of, having that problem-solving attitude. How do we get around it? Remember, a barrier is just a gate. It doesn't mean we can't do something. But I also like that you highlighted about the introduction for the artists, but also for the care teams. As we mentioned at the beginning, sometimes a barrier for both parties, for both sides of the street, is that it's just the communication. They just don't understand what each other's doing and what each other's needs are and how each other can support each other through that creative process. So, I'm really pleased that you've raised that as well. But everything sounds so inspiring what you're doing. And there are a few questions there pinging away in the chat. So what I'll do is I'll move on to Camille from Upswing now. But if we do have time at the end and you can't answer whatever questions are in the chat and you feel a verbal answer might be better, then we'll come back to you, Kate, if that's okay. Very inspiring, thank you. Okay, so our final guest speaker before we go into our breakout room discussions today is lovely Camille from Upswing. So welcome, Camille, and I'm going to hand over to you.
Thank you, Natalie. Thank you. I have a presentation here and a video that we'll share later. I'm going to tell you a bit about the story that led us to work in care setting as a circus organization. A little bit about me. I'm Camille. I'm the executive director of Upswing. I'm not Vicky Amidume, the CEO and founder of the company who was meant to speak today. She's locked in a rehearsal room in Stoke making a show. So you got me. So Upswing is a leading contemporary circus company based in Stoke-on-Trent. We create contemporary circus that blends aerial and acrobatic skill with sound and design, and we want to tell stories that matter. The company always looks for opportunities for beautiful experimentation. We want to have context, form, and action blend together to create unique experiences. We tour to theatres and festivals, but we also perform in the streets, in libraries, and in care homes. We take our shows to meet people in the places where they live, they work, and they play. We're a small team. We've got 4 employees, but we have an army of freelancers and regular collaborators that come together to help us deliver multi-year and large-scale projects. Last year, we reached over 20,000 people in the UK and beyond. We are a registered charity and an Arts Council England NPO. So our work is always led by the artistic impulse. Circus is at the core of everything, and it can lead us into surprising places and directions. Sometimes our ideas are going to be realized as main stage shows, and sometimes it's about using circus as a process that is flexible and adaptable and that can be used beyond performance. Circus is a popular art form and is recognized everywhere, and it's a powerful tool to break down barriers. So our work, let's see if I can manage to shift a little bit to this beautiful image. Our work for and with older people in care emerged from a show that we created in 2012. At the time, Vicky was approaching her 40s, and she was beginning to consider what getting older would mean for her professional and personal relationships. And she was increasingly aware that she knew very few artists that were over 50 still working in the field. So the show, titled What's Happened in the Winter, this is an image from the show, we worked with 2 professional circus artists, aged 50 and 69, to explore the assumptions, the expectations, and the narratives that we tend to attach to women's bodies as they age. And during the development of the show, we worked with women in their 60s, 70s, and 80s to discover the themes that resonated beyond the circus community. And we did this through various workshops in London and Southwest. And we unveiled themes of visibility, of becoming less visible, of adapting, having a changing relationship with your own body, and the shared need for risk-taking and challenge. It also enabled us to discover what circus practice for and with older bodies might be. So we went on to make other work, a collaborative film called Falling and Flying about age and isolation, another piece called Catch Me that was about age, race, and gender. And further on in 2016, we were approached by Magic Me for those residencies that Kate was talking about just now. And during that time, we were we spent 10 weeks in a care home in East London. That was a care home with 35 residents aged between 69 to 95, and with varying level of abilities and illnesses and conditions. The goal of the project was really to demonstrate to the wider arts sector that performing for care home audiences, including people with dementia, didn't mean diluting or dumbing down anything that we do. It was simply about thinking about making work more accessible. So yeah, we worked with the artists, our regular artists and collaborators to develop new performances specifically for the spaces that were available. So going back to checking the spaces ahead of time and thinking you might have to perform in the lunchroom and furniture might need to be moved beforehand. So you need to consider all these things. And we introduced music, clowning, illusions, juggling, and acrobatics, and some aerial work as well. We explored and tested the activities to engage the staff, the residents, and their families in playful interventions and parties. And the parties were really important. The circus parties were the most fun. A bit like a cabaret with different acts, but music and singing and participation, and some drink and food. And that really challenged expectations of people within the care home. And when I say people, it was everybody. The staff, the families, and the residents. So during that process, we discovered that circus could bring an important experience of pleasure and challenge at the same time. Circus does reveal untapped potential and builds personal resilience. And my favorite comment about the project was from the circle manager, who at the end of the project told us that she initially didn't want us here. she was very reticent of a circus company coming. But through circus, she realized she had been underestimating the people in her care, and that she now understood that a healthy and fulfilling life, you needed to take risk and be challenged to have that. So that was really, really strong comment. And let's see if I've got some more images. Some of our artists and some of the performers that came to the care homes here. And a lovely lady who was very much attending every session that we delivered there. So yeah, so since then we've been building the practice in care homes. We've went to Hull for the City of Culture with Storybox Circus. We sort of adapted the project that we did with Magic Me into a touring model. And that kind of gave us a lot of indicators about what we could do differently or better if we were to continue this work. Learning is really key to our practice, and the evaluation of the project showed that we needed more time, for example, in care homes, a strong focus on staff buy-in and training, and for us to also be very flexible and adapt with each home because they were different. We also wanted to ensure that our visits would impact for the long term, and that beyond us being there, there would be a legacy of some form, and that activities could continue. So we started trying out with a little guide that we shared, but we realized that without more instructions, it wasn't going to be so useful. We also realized that budget constraints, mean that external circus facilitators can't be brought in. We go into projects with the funding, but care homes usually struggle to find the kind of budgets that's needed for a circus. So we had ideas. We wanted to increase our expertise. We wanted to train ourselves. So we worked with consultants to look at the activities we were proposing and how to adapt them. We also wanted to work with artists who had social practice experience, because that's not what we do usually, our upswing. And also bring those artists who had lived experience of disability and were circus artists and could show us different ways of working. So we learned quite a lot during the process, and we slowly put together a project called Homemade Circus. And in 2019, we were very grateful to secure funding from the City Bridge Trust to develop a 3-year program homemade circus, working with Anchor, who were our partner for the Magic Me project. So we continued the same relationship. That was, a long-lasting meeting. And we wanted to deliver a multi-year and multi-care home project. Then COVID, just at the time. So we realized we wanted to really bring in a digital element to the project. We obviously paused delivery in care homes for quite a while. We managed to return and resume the project. And in the meantime, we had applied for further funding to the Rain Foundation to extend our work outside of London, working with Excel Care and Bupa, and also to develop a extensive digital toolkit. And this is where I'm going to stop sharing, bear with me, and share something else, which is the video. And I hope that sound will come through, and let me know if it doesn't, please.
Homemade circus is
Perfect.
enjoying,
Important.
very colourful, possibility.
Unity. Fun. And it's very entertaining. Upswing is a multi-award-winning contemporary circus company telling new stories in extraordinary ways. We exist to inspire curiosity, entertain, share urgent ideas, and ignite a desire to build connection. Our work is not confined to theatres and festivals. We reach people in unexpected ways, wherever they are. Our homemade circus project shows how we can put this into practice by bringing joy, play, and connection directly to those living in care in residential homes.
It's different, and it's nice to see people getting involved in a different way than the normal bingo, arts and crafts. So it is good getting people moving and getting everybody involved with different levels of abilities.
Having brought circus arts into care settings for over 10 years, our latest engagement project focuses on training care staff to create and run their own circus activities so that the program can continue even after we leave. We've trained care workers to become circus activity leaders through hands-on training and practical delivery sessions so they can confidently use circus equipment and run their own sessions. By equipping the care team with these skills, our goal is to have a more lasting impact and maintain the positive culture shift that circus activities can provide.
And thus it must bring back that thing we had in our childhood, that playfulness, and so residents who hardly responded before to stimulus of activity coming out of themselves, responding.
Upswing worked with Anchor Hanover, Excel Care, and Bupa care homes across London and the South East. The 2-year project was funded by City Bridge Trust and the Rain Foundation and involved a series of interactive workshops. We guided staff and residents to explore circus equipment side by side with activities designed to improve hand-eye coordination, dexterity and mobility, reduce anxiety, and above all, to have fun and bring people together.
We haven't had anything like this circus before, but this is just one of a kind and very different.
A key benefit of the homemade circus activities that makes them so valuable in care settings is the opportunity for residents to challenge themselves through activities that might initially seem risky or complex, but have been adapted to be safe and accessible for everyone. People with limited mobility or dementia can get just as involved as those who are looking for more of a challenge. We've experienced amazing reactions from care home residents, including noticeable improvements in dexterity, mobility, balance, and verbal communication. At its core, homemade circus unites people through shared experiences and laughter. We developed a digital toolkit to continue the legacy of homemade circus by providing easy-to-follow video tutorials. These short videos guide anyone looking to run circus activities in their care settings through the process, step by step. Alongside the tutorials, we also provide downloadable resource sheets, links to where you can purchase equipment, and even playlists to inspire your own circus sessions. The Homemade Circus project spotlights how circus arts can enrich care settings. Caregivers and residents bond over new challenges, breaking down barriers and building a sense of teamwork and achievement.
It doesn't take much of us, really. It's something that you can even go to the room in the next 5-10 minutes, you can do something with them. And that changes the atmosphere and people's feeling as well. Touch lives and it can change lives as well.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm overrunning a little bit, I think. Am I allowed to come back to the rest of the presentation, or do you want me to stop here, Natalie?
I'm just thinking that we've got breakout rooms, but I've got about another 3 minutes. I'll shave a few
I'm
minutes
gonna-
off the breakout rooms.
I'm going to speed through then.
Thank you, Camille. I am sorry.
No, that's fair enough. I'm just going to put that as I talk. So yeah, this project was really life-changing, I think, for a lot of people, including the artists that we trained. And, you know, they came out with a desire to continue the work, to explore their own kind of practice. They learned a lot of skills. And I think as an organization, it changed us as well. The way we work, the way we learn, the way we kind of look at evaluation. We completely shifted what we wanted to do with the reports. You know, we've produced two reports at the end of this project. They're on our website, and I can put them put the links in the chat afterwards. And those reports at first, you know, they were sort of action learning reports where we kind of adapted after the first year and changed things and kind of did something differently in the second year. I would say that the things that I'd like to give away from this project is taking risks, and that's been said already today. Challenge established perceptions of what people can do or want to do, and develop projects that benefit everyone involved. For me, that's a really, really important one. Projects that can build a community through the shared experience, including staff and families and the locality, the local place, you know, place-based experiences as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Camille. I think the one thing that is definitely shining from all our guest speakers today is the element of fun. You know, all the videos, the images that we've seen is people are being creative, but they are enjoying the opportunity to be creative. And how amazing is them circus skills and balancing things, and you know, it all helps, as you say, with the falls prevention within care services and staff engagement. I mean, just training the staff to deliver creativity from drawing to sculpture, as we heard with Belong, to, you know, Magic Me with the children, the next generation coming through, and circus performance. It's just such incredible speakers today. So thank you so much for sharing that. Well, we're not quite finished. We're going to ask you or invite you to join us in the breakout rooms now. And what we'd like to do is we'd like you to have, give you a question. Kate's going to pop it into the chat. I do have it here, but I don't want to get it wrong, Kate. So she's just popped in the chat, if you could change one thing, let me just open that up, that'll be easier. There we are. So what we'd like you to do is, if you could change one thing to improve engagement in meaningful creative activities for older people in care homes, what would it look like and what would it be? So just one thing, you don't have to overthink it. I'd really appreciate is if you do go into the breakout rooms, you pop your cameras on and speak to each other. You're only going to be in small groups. So I'm going to leave that now, and then we'll come back and we'll ask you for some feedback, whether that's verbally or you want to pop something in the chat. But we're going to open the breakout rooms now, are we, Kate? Yeah, we are. Okay. So we'll see you shortly. Hopefully you'll all join.
I'm going to step out of the breakouts, Kate, just because might
That's right.
be better for people's conversations.
You
But
can
that
stay
was
in the
great.
same room.
Thank you so much. That was really, really good. Thanks, Natalie.
You're welcome.
Yeah, everyone's
The beautiful presentations, the insights into the work is just awe-inspiring.
Can we just pause the recording while we're in the breakout rooms?
We can.
Yes.
Good point. Sorry, Lucy.
I was just going to say, I normally get my early ones coming back quite quickly, and then we have lots of chatties that come right up to the last couple of seconds, which is lovely. Okay, here everyone comes as if by magic. You was all zoomed back into the virtual space. Thank you very much for partaking in the breakout rooms, and apologies to two attendees who were zoomed into another virtual space, but we realised that there was only two in that group, so we kindly moved you over to another group. I hope it wasn't too much of a surprise, but it's the power of technology right at our fingertips. So, would anyone want to verbally share? The question that we asked you was, if you could change one thing to improve engagement in meaningful creative activities for older people living in care homes, what would it be, and what would it look like? So would anyone like to share? There is no pressure. You are more than welcome to pop anything into the chat for those of you that might think, oh, I'm not too sure about that. But if there is anyone that would like to speak, please feel free. We've got about 3 minutes. Claire McManus, I can see you with your hand up there, just as we're skipping through. Please unmute yourself.
Yeah, well, I suppose we didn't have anything positive. We did have some questions, so, and I think one of them, which came through quite strongly for most people, was legacy. Was so much funding is project funding. So you do a project, you go in, you do fantastic work, you get people involved, and then what? So one of the things people talked about was if there are big organisations or bigger organisations going in, is there some sort of capacity for developing local artists or a local artist who can kind of be there and stay embedded with the care home and carry on developing the work? Would that be any sort of model? Something that actually works against that, talking about CPPs, is that of course that people have to work in different places within those areas. So it cuts against the whole way they're set up, that they stay working in one area. So that's another difficulty. And also how individual freelance artists who are developing their own work in these areas, but don't necessarily get caught up in the funding for the big organisations, how do they actually get to use their experience and their work that they've been developing? Because sometimes it's just easier to fund the big organisations to come in and do stuff, but actually often it's the freelance artists who are actually doing some really valuable stuff and they're getting a bit missed out. So I think my group, is anybody, I think they were the sort of key points.
I think there's some really good key point questions there, and certainly that's been raised in the chat, which I know that Kate is going to come to in a moment. So if you can just hold that for a second, Claire, because I think it's a bit of a bigger discussion, and what we'll do is we'll come back to that in a moment. It just want to open up the space for anyone that has got a pointer. I can see some are coming into the chat. Bit more time in the breakout room. We know you love lots of times, but we've Kate tried to cram so much for you today into this session, that we just wanted to hear a little bit more from the speaker. So we apologise that we did run over a little bit from the agenda in terms of the breakout rooms.
Natalie, Jen Harris had her hand up as well.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see Jen. Do apologise, Jen.
That's
Would you like
fine.
to? Would you like to?
Yeah, I was just going to do a little summary from our group. They're
Fabulous.
fairly obvious points, but there were 4 of us and we talked about time. So the thing that you were talking about, Camille, of people maybe being a bit resistant, but if you have real time and something is happening over a prolonged period of time, people, obviously relationships develop, you get to know the art forms, people feel a bit more confident. So how important time is in a project. Obviously funding, but that sort of goes without saying, but funding is a key thing. Training care staff to feel confident in the first place, and just reintroducing that aspect of play and how important that is, and maybe thinking about that from the outset. Like one person in our group said that in job descriptions for the care staff and support staff, that an importance on creativity could be there. So it's almost like you're setting your agenda out from the start. But a lot of that is kind of chicken and egg, because people have to feel that they understand the importance of creativity in the first place before even doing that. Anyway, I think that's a bit of a summary. Someone in my group might have more to add.
That was a fabulous summary. Absolutely. And you definitely touched on a lot of the barriers there, and the ways that the speakers today have worked around them as well. But time is always something that is needed, isn't it? And certainly embedding, as we heard with Belong Villages before, about that legacy approach to having the artists within their villages and the enabling then that to continue, and the same with Magic Me and the same with Camille, that training the staff is the legacy. We have funders which are amazing, and we'd be lost without funders and the National Lottery, etc. But what is that legacy? How do we maintain that? How do we keep that? There's a few in the chat there as well, Kate. I don't know if you want to answer any of them, or I can see that you are actually replying to some of them. I do apologise because I'm trying to keep up with it and it's pinging. So
yes, okay. I think, Natalie, there's a summary about risk. We need creative risk, but not just physical risk, but emotional risk as well, to really harness and develop practice relationships. That was from Julian West. Sally Gibson mentioned about harnessing at the value and experience of freelancers, enable them to skill share. And I should also say, thanks, Sally, for that. That picks up on an earlier point made. I'm trying to think who it was made earlier this afternoon. I'm going through. Carla asked as well about organisations working with care settings, and whether there's opportunities well for more freelancers, because freelance practitioners already trained, experienced in these areas, and where the projects take place. So the question really was about how can freelancers get involved. I think, Carla, correct me if I'm wrong if you're still there. So there was, and I think that was it. But I'm happy for anyone to pick up on any of those points.
I can step in if that's helpful. I think that question was in response to the artist residences in care homes. I think that was a really specific project for a specific moment in time. So that was in 2015 when we started that, and the conversations with the funder, Paul Hamlin, was really about looking at the landscape of arts organisations, particularly at that point Arts Council NPOs, and not many were working in care homes. And then us as Magic Me, who were not an NPO at that point, small arts organisation who had that expertise, how could we support those organisations? And that really thinking about legacy and embedding into those organisations so that then they can develop that into their work in the future and work with their freelancers and as well. I totally agree with the point about local artists and freelance artists. I also think it's really important that there's support and scaffolding for freelance artists, whether they're attached to a big organisation or small organisation. So I think there is a conversation around that needs opening up and thinking what would be the best way of doing that, so freelancers aren't doing all of that work themselves.
I'm just going to butt in and just add to that. It's I mean, we consider ourselves a small organization because, as I said, there's 3 to 4 of us, full-time equivalent. But and we have a huge team of freelancers. We do open recruitment for projects like that, and especially the homemade circus was an open call for people who had interest in that field. But I also understand the local needs. That's what I was saying at the very end, the place-based approach, and I think it's really important to think about an economy, of geography, and just kind of have those communities built really easily. And our next project, working with older people in care, will be very much in the West Midlands and working with artists, local artists, and bringing artists into circus as well via that. So growing the circus community, but the circus in care community.
Thank you for that, Camille. I hope that answers your questions well, Claire, because I felt they were very similar in what you was asking. So I hope that does answer your question, but I'm sure that Kate would be more than happy for you to email either one of today's guest speakers and get in touch with Kate, and we can discuss that further. And anyone that is listening today, if you are a freelance artist and you are you're very excited and innovate, spurred on by today's speakers and the amazing work that is going on in care services, and do get in touch with Kate. Okay, so we're coming to the end of today's time. I'm going to hand back over to Kate now because I believe there's a survey, and I'm going to let Kate wrap up. I just want to say thank you so much for all your engagement, for sticking with us for the 2 hours. Thank you to today's speakers and Kate and her team for organising this. And thank you for inviting Napa to chair. That was really kind of you. So I'm going to hand over, and thank you from me.
Oh, and thank you, Natalie. What a brilliant job you've done today. So smooth. We really appreciate yourself and all the speakers and our interpreters, Claire and Harry. You've done an amazing job. So yes, we'd love to see you at the next session. We have one next month, which will follow up on this topic as a Connect and Reflect. And you can be able to book on that on our website, which is Place-Based Peer Learning. I'm just going to launch the care home, the session survey, which should take a couple of minutes for those who have time. We'd really appreciate it because it will give us a little bit of feedback and hopefully ideas for future programme. I hope you can all see it.
I started filling it in, but it's gone now.
Has it gone?
It has for me.
It pinged it. Oh, let me. Okay. See what happened. I'll go back. Ended. Relaunch. Continue. Sorry, I think I may have pressed a button there. It should just relaunch as it was before.